Have you ever had the strange feeling that the world around you is out of sync? Like everyone is running around, talking, posting, consuming, but none of it really makes sense. Maybe you've wondered if it's you who's going crazy. But what if it's the other way around? We live in an age where the absurd disguises itself as normality, where rushing around, anxiety, and constant comparison are treated as an inevitable part of life. The problem is that when everyone is sick, illness seems to be the norm. And that's where the real danger arises, when collective insanity becomes invisible because it's everywhere. This video is an invitation to take a deeper look at what's happening around you and within you. We'll talk about how modern society has become mentally ill, how you may be trapped in this psychosis without realizing it, and most importantly, how to escape this illusion and reclaim your sanity and authenticity. If this topic resonates with you, make sure you're subscribed to the channel to continue receiving reflections that provoke, liberate, and strengthen your mind. Because the truth is, there is no freedom without consciousness. And maybe, just maybe, you are beginning to wake up. Understanding mass psychosis. Waking up is just the first step. When you start questioning what everyone accepts as normal, an inevitable question arises. What exactly is going on with the world? And why does it seem like so many people are trapped in a kind of collective madness, even while maintaining a semblance of normalcy? The answer lies in a phenomenon called mass psychosis, a state in which large groups of people adopt irrational beliefs, behaviors, and emotions as if they were absolutely rational. It doesn't mean that everyone has to be in psychiatric hospitals. On the contrary, this social madness manifests itself on the streets, in offices, and on social media feeds. It is present in repeated jokes, in trends that come and go without explanation, in digital hysteria, and in absolute certainties that do not admit of questioning. Historically, this has happened before. During the Salem witch trials, for example, entire communities went into a collective frenzy, seeing threats where none existed. Later, in the 20th century, extremist ideologies took hold of entire populations, leading ordinary people to accept and even commit unthinkable acts. What do these situations have in common? A dominant idea, reinforced by repetition and fear, that infiltrates everyone's thinking until it seems the only possible truth. Today, the dynamics are different, but the pattern is the same. We no longer have physical campfires or battlefields. We have timelines. Modern madness is fueled by algorithms, validated by likes, and kept alive by a desperate need for social acceptance. People don't believe something because they've thought deeply about it, but because everyone around them seems to believe it. And when you're the only one questioning it, the world does everything it can to convince you that you're the problem. Mass psychosis works like an emotional virus. One person feels fear, passes it on to another, and soon the fear spreads through entire groups. But unlike a regular virus, it doesn't require physical contact. All it takes is a viral video, an alarmist headline, a speech repeated 1,000 times. And so, irrational behavior becomes the norm: mass hysteria, mass cancellations, overreactions to simple events. Logic is drowned out by a group emotion. But it's not just fear that fuels this psychosis. The search for belonging is another crucial factor. In an increasingly disconnected world, where real connections are scarce, people desperately want to feel like they belong. And if the only way to belong is to repeat speeches, wear masks, and follow movements, even if they contradict each other, they will do it, even if it costs them their sanity. Mass psychosis creates a kind of invisible prison. You continue to live your routine, but your mind is being shaped by external forces without you realizing it. You think you are making free decisions, when in fact you are just reacting to what the group imposes. And this is the most dangerous thing. When you think you are free, but you are acting inside a cage that you do not even see. That's why this kind of collective madness is so hard to identify. It doesn't scream, it whispers. It doesn't impose itself, it seduces. It doesn't need to convince you, it just needs to make you afraid to think differently. Understanding mass psychosis means recognizing that the disease is not in isolated individuals, but in the entire environment. An environment that rewards alienation, haste, and superficiality. And in this scenario, being sane is not just a challenge, it is an act of rebellion. Now that you understand what this mass psychosis is, the next step is to understand how, exactly, modern society was shaped to sustain it. Because this madness didn't just come out of nowhere, it was constructed, cultivated, and sold as a way of life, society as an alienation machine. If mass psychosis was constructed, the inevitable question is, who constructed it and why? The answer is before our eyes every day. It is in the advertisements that tell us who we should be, in the algorithms that decide what we see, in the environments where performance is more important than essence. Modern society, with all its promises of progress and freedom, has become, unwittingly, or perhaps intentionally, an industrial-scale alienation factory. From a young age, we are conditioned to follow an invisible script. Do well in school, choose a respectable career, buy, produce, accumulate, post. There is no room for pause or questioning. We are constantly pushed to do more, show more, be more, even if this more costs us our mental health, our relationships, and our connection with ourselves. This system is not neutral. It feeds on your insecurity. It needs you to feel inadequate so that you keep buying, posting, comparing yourself. That is why today's society does not want conscious individuals. It needs anxious, connected, and obedient consumers. And everything is structured for this. Social networks, the pace of work, the media, models of success. The result is an artificial existence. We live surrounded by stimuli, but emotionally isolated. Human contact is replaced by messages. Reflection is crushed by haste. Presence is diluted by the addiction to endless scrolling. We are always busy but rarely conscious, and the further we move away from who we really are, the more the collective psychosis grows stronger. The cruelest part is that all of this is sold as freedom. You can be whatever you want, they say. But at the same time, they suggest exactly what you should want. A perfect body, an admirable career, an enviable feed. The menu is vast, but the essence is the same. Control disguised as choice. And so, we remain trapped in a cycle of frustration and dependence, believing that we are in control, when in fact we are being guided. This systematic alienation makes us lose our bearings. When you look around and see no one stopping to breathe, reflect, or simply exist, you start to think that this is normal. But it is not. It never was. Human beings were not born to live disconnected from themselves. And when this happens for too long, madness is not a flaw. It is a logical consequence. Our collective mental health is collapsing because we live in a model that demands constant sacrifice of what is most human in us: silence, sensitivity, vulnerability, truth. Today's world offers 1,000 forms of distraction, but almost no opportunity for deep connection. And without connection with others, with nature, with one's own body, sanity fades. But all is not lost. The simple act of seeing this process is already a huge step, because once you see the machine, you can no longer ignore the sound of the gears. And when you understand how it operates, you can stop being a part and start being a being. If this content is making sense to you so far, please leave a like right now. This helps me to continue producing videos with depth and awareness, and it also shows that you value this type of reflection. Sometimes a simple gesture like this is enough to spread an important idea to other people. In the next chapter, we'll step away from the macro and look inward. Because despite the collective scenario, mass psychosis takes hold in the individual in a subtle and silent way. You may be living trapped in this illusion without even realizing it. The symptoms of invisible madness. You don't have to be in a psychiatric clinic to live with psychosis. Most people who have succumbed to mass madness seem completely functional. They work, they study, they maintain active social networks. They are living as if everything were normal. But inside there is an emptiness that screams, albeit silently. Mass psychosis doesn't arrive with an alarm. It doesn't knock on your door saying, "Hello, I've come to take away your sanity." It sneaks in, and one of the first signs is constant exhaustion. Not the kind of tiredness after a long day, but a deep, persistent mental exhaustion. A feeling that you're never truly rested, even after sleeping, even after trying to relax, because your mind never stops. It's always on, trying to keep up with a world that never slows down. Another common symptom is chronic anxiety. You feel like you need to be always on alert, always responding, always producing. You always feel like you're behind on something. There's an invisible pressure not to stop, not to lose relevance, not to disappear. This creates a permanent anxiety that hides behind automatic smiles and rehearsed phrases like, "Everything's fine." There is also the increasing difficulty in concentrating. Everything seems fragmented. Reading a book to the end becomes a challenge. Watching a video without picking up your phone in the middle requires effort. It is as if the brain has forgotten how to dive deeply into something. And little by little, this superficiality contaminates everything. Thoughts, conversations, relationships. In addition, there is a fear of being authentic. You start to filter every word you say, every action you take, to fit into other people's expectations. Spontaneity gives way to performance. You find yourself molding your personality to please, avoid conflict, or seem interesting enough. And in the process, your essence is left aside. There is also a state of emotional apathy disguised as normality. You feel like you are living on autopilot, repeating the same gestures, the same commitments, but without truly feeling anything, neither pain nor deep joy, just a tired neutrality, a kind of numbness of the soul. And the most curious thing is that many of these symptoms are seen as normal. After all, everyone lives like this, right? Everyone is tired, stressed, overwhelmed, but that is precisely the point. What is common is not necessarily healthy. The fact that everyone is getting sick at the same time does not make the disease a new form of sanity. This collective state creates a reality where silent suffering is trivialized, where asking for help is seen as weakness, where slowing down is almost a sin. And so, we continue to get sick together, smiling in photos, exchanging messages, and pretending that we are fine. Because admitting otherwise would be like tearing the fabric of the illusion that everyone is supported by. But the good news is that awakening can start simply by recognizing your symptoms, by naming what you're feeling, by stopping, even for a minute, to ask yourself honestly, what's happening to me? What am I really feeling? You don't have to answer everything right now, but you do need to start listening, because the longer you ignore these signs, the deeper you sink into this psychosis, disguised as routine. In the next chapter, we'll face an uncomfortable truth. Perhaps the greatest enemy to your sanity isn't the chaos outside, but the idea that living like this is the right thing to do. We'll talk about how so-called normalcy may actually be the most dangerous disease of all. Normality is the real disease. The biggest trap of collective psychosis is precisely this. It hides under the name of normality. When everyone is sick, the symptom becomes a habit. Irrational behavior becomes the norm. The rush, the fear, the disconnection, all of this is treated as part of adult life. And if you don't adapt, the problem is you. But what if it's the other way around? What if living in pursuit of empty goals, trying to please everyone, filling the silence with distractions and pills, is the real imbalance? What if adapting to a system that makes you sick, physically, emotionally, and spiritually, is the real sign that something is very wrong? The philosopher Jiddu Krishnamurti said a phrase that became a cry for lucidity in the midst of chaos. It is no sign of health to be well adapted to a deeply sick society. And this is one of the most uncomfortable truths we can face, because it requires courage to see oneself as an accomplice to a madness disguised as routine. The normality that they sell us is made up of repeated patterns without reflection. Work to the limit. Smile, even if you don't feel like it. Show success, even if you don't have a purpose. Don't question, just keep going. And anyone who deviates from this, who slows down, who says no, is seen as rebellious, irresponsible, or even weak. But perhaps it is precisely those who question who are closest to sanity. Start observing. Who are the people you deeply admire? Those who seem to live with authenticity, presence, truth. Most likely, they are precisely those who refuse to accept madness as a way of life. They are the ones who preferred uncomfortable freedom to comfortable imprisonment. The most dangerous thing about this supposed normality is that it numbs you. It makes you settle. You're not happy, but you're also not unhappy enough to change. It's like living in a kind of constant emotional fog where the days go by, but nothing really changes inside you. And when you start to realize this, something inside you starts to stir. It may be uncomfortable, it may be scary, but it may also be the beginning of your liberation. And I want to hear from you. At what moments in your life have you felt like you were living more to fit in than to be yourself? Leave your experience in the comments, even if it's just a few words. Sometimes a simple rant can pave the way for deep reflections, not only for you, but for those who are reading it. In the next chapter, we'll talk about the turning point, the moment when you decide that you're not going to stay asleep any longer, that you're going to start observing, feeling, and choosing with more presence. Because that's when awakening really begins, when you see yourself clearly for the first time. The first step to awakening. At some point, after repeating what was expected of you for so long, something starts to break inside. It could be an exhaustion that won't go away, a dissatisfaction that persists even when everything is going well, or simply a deep desire to understand why you feel like you're living someone else's life. This is the turning point. It's not dramatic. There are no fireworks. Sometimes it's just a different kind of silence, an inexplicable discomfort, a pause that seems small but carries immense power, the pause of sincere doubt. Doubting is not a sign of weakness. It is the beginning of lucidity, and the first step to awakening is precisely this: observing. Observing what you do, what you think, what you feel, and asking yourself, is this really mine? Or is it just something I was taught to accept? It may seem simple, but this question has the power to tear down entire walls within the mind. It reveals how many choices were made out of fear, how many opinions are repeated without reflection, how many habits are just copies of what is expected of you. In this beginning of awakening, silence is your ally. Not the silence of apathy, but the silence of listening. When you stop for a few minutes without stimuli, without distractions, and simply feel what is happening inside you, something changes. Consciousness begins to expand, and with it comes the responsibility to live with greater presence. Of course, this process can be uncomfortable. After all, getting out of automatic mode means facing areas of your life that were dormant, but this discomfort is a sign of life. It's a reminder that behind the persona you wear every day, your essence is still there, waiting for space. It's not about changing everything at once, nor about becoming someone else. Awakening begins with small ruptures, small no's said with conviction, small pauses made with courage, small decisions made with truth, and this, little by little, rebuilds something that the world tried to erase in you: autonomy over yourself. In the next chapter, we'll explore practical ways to strengthen this awakening process, because realizing that you're asleep is essential, but learning to walk awake amid the collective madness is the real challenge. Paths to regaining sanity. To wake up is to realize, but to stay awake takes practice. Sanity is not a fixed destination. It is a state that needs to be cultivated every day, especially when the environment around you keeps pulling you back into the collective slumber. The good news is that there are real, accessible ways to regain mental and emotional clarity. These aren't magic solutions. They're simple but powerful practices that work precisely because they reconnect you with what's essential. The first step is to reduce exposure to the stimuli that fuel collective psychosis. This doesn't mean disappearing from the world, but creating conscious boundaries, uninstalling apps for a few days, leaving your phone in another room while you eat, setting aside fixed times to use social media. These small actions reduce the bombardment of information and create space for your mind to breathe. Next, cultivate real connections. Deep relationships are a way of resisting the world of superficiality. Face-to-face conversations, shared silences, mutual support, all of these strengthen mental health. And above all, remember, being with someone is not the same as being connected. Presence is more important than frequency. Another essential path is regular introspection. You can call it meditation, contemplation, silent prayer. The name matters less than the action. A few minutes a day in silence, focusing on your breathing or simply observing your thoughts, can rebalance your nervous system and expand your consciousness. Also, feed your mind with content that deepens, not distracts. Swap out some of your scrolling time for books that challenge your thinking. Watch thought-provoking videos like this one. Learn more about philosophy, psychology, and spirituality. This not only strengthens your critical thinking, but also protects you from falling into ideological or emotional traps. Another aspect that is often overlooked is the body. Taking care of your physical health means taking care of your mind. Getting enough sleep, eating mindfully, and moving every day All of these things have a direct impact on your mental state. There is no clarity in an exhausted mind, nor peace in an inflamed body. But perhaps the most important point is this: live by your real values. Not the ones you were taught, not the ones that are in fashion, but your own. Identify what really matters to you: freedom, peace, truth, simplicity, and then begin to align your daily actions with those values. This inner coherence is one of the greatest antidotes to the madness of the world. The process of regaining sanity doesn't have to be a lonely one. When you take the first step, other people come to you, people who are also waking up, who are also tired of the noise and thirsty for truth. And this encounter, even if virtual, creates a new possible reality. So if this video is helping you see the world more clearly, please like it now. It may seem like a simple thing, but this gesture shows that you value this type of content and help spread this message to those who may need it today. The courage to be free. Getting here is in itself an act of resistance. In a world that does everything to keep you distracted, drugged, conditioned, choosing to reflect, question, and awaken is a silent form of revolution. But the truth is that inner freedom is not easy. It demands responsibility. It demands presence. It demands the courage to let go of the persona you have built to please others. The courage to be misunderstood, to go against the current, to choose silence when everyone else is shouting. Living awake is not about living perfectly. It is about living with awareness. It is about looking within and taking control of your own mind, your own values, your own steps. It is about understanding that the world may continue to go crazy, but you don't have to go crazy with it. Maybe you still feel scared. That's okay. Freedom is scary at first, but over time, it becomes the only space where it makes sense to exist. You didn't come into this world to repeat. You came to express, to create, to be whole. If this journey resonated with you, check now to see if you are subscribed to the channel. This way you will continue to receive content that helps you keep your mind steady and your heart clear, even in turbulent times. Because lucidity is an ongoing act, and you've just taken a giant step towards yours.